Hello everyone, my name is Protesilaos, also known as Prot. In this video I want to provide you with a status update on my repetitive strain injury and the split ergonomic keyboard I got in response to it in an attempt to alleviate the pain and recover from the injury. Let me first recap on what the case is, and then I will tell you the update, what has happened in the meantime since I got this keyboard in late March 2024. So last year in the autumn of 2023, I started feeling intense pain in two parts of my hand. One was at the base of the forearm and the other was at the wrist. And this injury was related to the use of the keyboard, and it was only triggered when I was using the keyboard, meaning that I could do other kinds of physical labor, what I do here around the hut with a mattock, with a pickaxe, with a shovel, all that kind of work I could do just fine, and I can still do just fine. But the injured areas would always be triggered when I would start using the keyboard. At the time, I was using a generic toy grade keyboard. I say toy grade because I literally bought it from a toy store here in Cyprus. If you know Cyprus, the toy store is called Jumbo, and this keyboard I got for less than 10 euro at the time. And specifically, the problem was not the keyboard itself, though that could have contributed, but it was the angles with which I would approach and I would touch the keys. And specifically, this angle here, where we have an acute angle from the palm to the forearm. Here at the wrist, we have this awkward angle. If you do just this, you might already start feeling some tension at the base of your forearm. The second angle, which is problematic and which is combined with this one, is an upward tilt to the palm. And again, if you do this and you touch your forearm, you will feel a bit of tension there. It may not be too much, but you will feel it for sure. Now, what happens is when you are in this kind of position, already the muscles are stretched. But once you start moving your fingers, you can try that, move your fingers and touch the base of your forearm. So you will notice those small muscles here at the base of the forearm extending all the way to the fingers. You will notice how they are moving. So eventually, when you do this for a long time, you might get injured, and this is how I got injured. At the end of March, as I said, 2024, I got this keyboard. This is a gift from a person named Andreas, to whom I am most thankful. This keyboard is the Iris keyboard, and it is sold by keeb.io. This is the website, Keeb, so Keeb.io. The company is also known as Keebio. So they are selling this and a few other keyboards which look nice. This is the Iris Revision 8, and I am very happy with it. I have been using it full time since I got it, and I must say that it has already fixed the wrist issue. So I no longer feel any pain here. However, the pain at the base of the forearm is still there, even though it has been diminishing. Back when I first had the intense pain, I could type for maybe 5 minutes non-stop, and then my forearm would start feeling numbness, and eventually I would have to quit because it was painful, and I would have to take a 30-minute break at least and then resume typing. Whereas now with this one, I am able to type for maybe 2 hours non-stop, and then I will take a break. I don't push my limits. I don't want to see how much I can go with this one before I trigger the injury. But I know that 2 hours is already good, so I don't need more anyway because I am not at the keyboard the whole time. The way I use this keyboard, now of course I have the two parts here and they are close to each other for the purposes of the video. But when I normally use the video, I spread these apart, and of course I cannot do it. This table here is something that I found laying around and I fixed it. But anyway, I cannot really do it here. There are the holes in the table, but imagine that I spread this out and I type like this at a natural position. So my hands don't have these kind of angles anymore. They are straight. So from the wrist all the way to the base of the forearm, it is a straight line. And this is the idea. The other thing you will notice here, and this is a difference relative to the video I did in early April where when I first introduced this keyboard, you will notice that I have added these bolts here and nuts, regular bolts and nuts, nothing special about them. They are not keyboard specific. And what these do is they provide tenting to the keyboard. Tenting is when you will have elevation at the center and the slope is downward towards the right and left hand sides. So when we introduce tenting to the keyboard, we allow the hand to be at a more natural position. The natural position is like this, and when we are typing on a flat keyboard, it is like this. And this is can cause injury in itself. It's called pronation. You can look into it. But the point is that when you tilt it a little bit and you have this angle over there, you are closer to a natural position. Of course, you can have a tent that is really aggressive, but I don't have that kind of kit. So what I have is this, a little bit of tent here. It's totally okay, it works, and it makes a difference because I tried with and without it, and I noticed that with this, it is more relaxing to type on. So having this keyboard spread apart and with the tenting and everything allows me to have this more natural position and thus to not trigger any of the pain points. And this is why I have recovered from the wrist pain and I am gradually recovering from the forearm injury as well. I think that realistically I will need another 6 months for the forearm to be completely healed. But I know that I am on the right path and I am not contributing further to the injury. So this is very good for me. I think part of the problem with the injury is not just the ergonomics themselves, but also the kind of usage I do of the keyboard. More specifically, the kind of typing I do. I do program and I do write prose as well. When you program, unless you are writing the program at the outset, it's a new program, what usually happens is that you are moving around and are performing surgical edits. You are not really typing out a wall of text. This is not how you normally will program. So you will be doing this precise edits and you will otherwise be moving around. And this puts a different kind of stress on the fingers. You type differently relative to when you are writing prose, where you will be typing out a large body of text. At least in my case, the way I write prose is to write the whole thing in one go and to not do edits while I am typing. So you have, there is this method where somebody will type a few words, delete everything back, type again and delete. I don't do that. I just type out the whole thing and then review it for spelling mistakes and publish it if it is to be published. Otherwise, keep it in my private records if it's a journal entry, for example. The point is that I do a lot of prose. If you see my website, you will notice that I write a lot for my website, but I write even more for what you don't see, which is like my email correspondence, my journal, and so on. So I spend a lot of time basically doing this, like the whole time, non-stop. And of course, when you have the awkward angles and you do typing a lot, that will be a problem. Now it's not a problem anymore, and I am very happy with the state of affairs. I don't see myself ever going back to a unibody, a traditional keyboard, unless it is for some ad hoc case where I need to type something for a few minutes. But I won't be going back to it to do any serious writing or coding. No question about that. It will always have to be a split keyboard. It would always have to be something that doesn't trigger any pain points. Now, a few more things about the keyboard, what we would consider keyboard enthusiast themes. So there are some differences relative to when I first introduced this. There is a different key cap set, there are different key switches, and there is also a modification you don't see, which is foam that I added below the PCB of the keyboard. Let me start with the foam, which I have right here. So this is something that I just found in a package that I had, and I thought, this is interesting. I might be able to use this. So what I did is I opened the case here, and I extracted the PCB, and I placed it here, and then I created the precise cut that I needed, and then I installed it below the PCB. And what this does is it improves the stability of the PCB, and it also improves the acoustics of the keyboard. Before, the keyboard felt too hollow. It was a very strange sound. I didn't really like it. But of course, I wouldn't complain. The keyboard was perfectly fine. But the sound I thought could be improved. Once I added the foam, things improved considerably, and otherwise, this is good. But of course, none of this is really about ergonomics. This is more about the experience with the hardware itself. The second thing are these switches. So these are the Keychron K Pro switches, the silver variant. And maybe I can show you. 1 second though. Let's not lose anything. So this is it. Maybe you can see it, and these are the silver switches. You may already know about silver switches, but just in case you don't know, normally we have three types of switches. We have linear, we have tactile, and we have clicky, and these are color coded red, brown, and blue. Like normally it is like that. The red switch is the linear switch, which has an actuation force of about 45 grams, meaning how much you have to press to actuate a key press. And there is more to it. So we have 45 grams, and then the total travel from when you start pressing until you reach the bottom, so from top to bottom, the total travel is 4 millimeters on those regular switches. With the silver switch, we have a total travel of, I think, 3.6 millimeters. The actuation force is 38G, so it is lower than the red type of switch. And there is another difference, which is at which point in the while you are pressing the key, at which point do you actuate the key press. On a regular switch, it's around the 2 millimeter mark. So there is about 2 millimeters of pre-travel, and then once you get past that point, you actuate the key press, and then the rest is just the bottom out phase. Whereas here, you have a shorter amount of pre-travel, and then you actuate the key press. I forget what the numbers are, but I think it's 1.2 millimeters of pre-travel. So what this switch does is it has shorter pre-travel, shorter total travel, and an earlier actuation point, and it is lighter. So what all these do together is that you have a switch that feels featherweight, and you just need to touch it like this, and this registers a key press. When I first got these, I bought these myself, by the way. I bought them in the spring of 2024. Keychron was running a sale across all their product lines, and these I got for €8. €8 for 110 switches, which blows my mind. I think the full price of these are 14 euro or 16 euro thereabouts, which is still cheap. But I bought them for even less than that. And these switches, as I was saying, they are light, they are featherweight, and you can actuate them simply by touching on the key. You don't have to press with force, you don't have to slam the keys, and you don't need to bottom out, of course. Uh, if you are bottoming out, of course, you can hear it, but you don't need to go all the way. You just touch it, and that's good enough. And you do it like this. And this is actually how I have now learned to type. I used to slam the keys. Now I am more economical with my energy, basically, with how much force I put, and it feels better as a result. When I first installed those switches, it felt really, really awkward. I couldn't do anything. I felt like as soon as I would rest my fingers on the home row, it would start typing on its own. It almost felt like that. It was very unsettling. But eventually I persevered and I learned, I improved my technique, and I became a more accurate typist as a result. Not faster, but more accurate. And I must say that now I am very happy with these switches. I like the fact that they are linear because they are smooth and they are very light. And so this, I think, contributes to also my situation with the injury, because now I am putting even less stress on those muscles, which I think is good. It helps long term. And the other thing that you can see here are the keycaps. These are a gift from a person who prefers to remain unidentified. You know who you are, and if you are watching this, thank you very much. This keycap set is from Keychron as well. This is a cherry profile keycap set. I think it is sold for around 30, 35 euro thereabouts. And this keycap set is produced out of PBT material. It is fairly thick. It has a very nice sound to it. It feels full. The feel is also good to the touch. It is not coarse, but it is not totally smooth either. I think it's a fine midpoint between the two, and I really like it. And the color scheme, I think it looks nice as well. This color scheme, I believe it's called the Dolce Red, maybe. Something like that. It's a very good keycap set, and I enjoy it. The last thing about these is that they are double shot keycaps, and this is terminology that when I first got into keyboards, I didn't understand. What is double shot? What is die sublimated? What is all that? So a double shot keycap. Maybe I can actually get this out, and then we can see. So in a double shot keycap, maybe you can see here is that we have two levels of plastic. We have the inner level, which is what you see on the legend, and then we have the outer level, which is what is the coating for the keycap. And this technique is known as the double shot technique. So I believe what is first happening is that into the mold they inject the first plastic, which is for the legend, and then originally the legend will have a tiny bit where it protrudes, and then the second layer of plastic is added on top, and eventually you get the keycap like this. Of course, I don't know the details, but I think this is what is happening. So these are really nice. They are very good for me. The cherry profile is a profile that I really enjoy. I don't know if it is my favorite because before I was using the OEM profile and I think I like that a bit more. But the build quality of this set is high, and I definitely prefer it over the brittle and very thin OEM profile keycaps I had before. So this is clearly an upgrade for me. All these things contribute to a very comfortable typing experience. However, you can always make improvements, and this is the part where keyboards become a hobby. It's a kind of an enthusiasm that you have for the hardware and for the little things, for the details that go into it. Like you can get better switches, for example, better linear switches or better switches of other types as well, where it has a more full bottom out sound. For example, these sound kind of awkward, like things are clashing in there. So you can get something that is more muted at the bottom out sound, for example. Also, you can get something that is not as scratchy. I didn't mention this, but maybe I can pick up another of those and see. So with key switches, especially the linear ones, but generally with key switches, you can feel some kind of scratch as you are typing, as you are moving down towards the bottom of the switch. And this scratch, of course, can be very subtle or it can be quite pronounced depending on the key switch. Linear switches tend to be smoother than tactile or clicky switches, but of course you can still have a linear switch that is scratchy. These switches are a bit scratchy. If you press at the center and if you press at the center, it's basically the best you get. Like you can feel a tiny bit of scratch even at the center, but it's almost non-existent. If, however, you press off center, you notice the scratch a bit more. Again, it's not too much. I don't mean to say that it is a deal breaker and you cannot use it, but just that it is there, it is noticeable. And of course, if you really care about these details, you will be like, hey, I don't want this at all. I really need the best quality switches. And maybe you can lubricate those and that will improve the situation. But I tried that with the other switches I had, and I must say that I didn't really like it. I don't think it fixes the problem. It may change the behavior of the switch a little bit, but not to the point where it's a different switch altogether. So you may be able to find a switch that is better out of the box and then you can modify it further, whatever. But there are switches which you can find that are less scratchy, that are more smooth. So of course you can do that. You can buy keycaps that are even of an even higher quality. You can add other modifications to the keyboard. And basically you can spend all that money for increasingly marginal returns, marginal gains. There is nothing wrong against that. It's something that I enjoy myself, but I think it reaches a point where it is no longer science. It reaches a point where you are not really noticing any differences, but it's just make believe, it's just marketing, smoke and mirrors. Like, can you really tell the difference if it's, I don't know, 38G instead of 40G for actuation force, or if it's a tiny bit of a difference in the sound it makes and that sort of thing? I really don't see the gains that we have from that. Of course, the sound is not just from the key switches, it's also from the keycaps, it's also from what is in the keyboard, as well as your surface where you are typing on. But just to say that you can improve all those things, you can, of course, make little tweaks, but for me, it reaches a point where it's not really worth it. These things are expensive if you want to really get the highest quality, and for me, that kind of investment is not really something I am interested in. Maybe I can do it in a couple of years or whatever, but it's really not a priority. For me, this keyboard is fantastic. I really like it. I write every day with it. I use it full time. It has fixed the pain in my wrist. It will fix the pain at the base of my forearm, and I am very happy as a result. So yeah, this is it, folks. I also have, if you are interested in this, I also have a configuration, a QMK configuration for the firmware. So if you are interested in this, I will share that. It will be in a link in the description of the video on my website. So if you are watching this on the video hosting platform, I will link to my website, and from there you can find this publication, and below there will be a link to my QMK setup, and you can get it from there. So yeah, this is it, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Just to say, the last thing is that if you don't have any kind of injury and you say, hey, I am healthy, everything is going good, I have no injuries whatsoever, no health issues whatsoever, so of course I am safe. Don't think that, because I was in the same situation. No health issues whatsoever, and I am active, I am athletic, and all that. And I was thinking that, well, why should I care, right? But you should care, because this kind of thing happens over an extended period of time and you don't notice it. And when you do notice it, the damage is already there. So you have to be mindful of your office ergonomics in general, and you have to be careful with how you use the keyboard and how you sit at the desk and all those things. So you do your reading, do your research, but do not overestimate yourself. No matter what your overall health is, no matter how fit you are, it doesn't matter. If you don't pay attention, you can get injured. That's all for now, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care, and goodbye for now.